the button said go live, so I did.
Press it.
I thought, yeah, might as well press it, and then you go live, and it's all that sort of thing. Do you remember go? Was it going live? Going live?
Schofield and Gordon the Gopher.
Yeah,
obviously I do.
There was other TV presenters that are involved in that TV program as well, who are probably less controversial in terms of talking about them now. But yeah, I remember. I used to love Saturday morning TV. Hello, everybody. This is not Saturday morning TV. This is Wow Ergonomics. But if you look at our little logo, it's kind of Tiswazzy.
Yeah.
And I think when I designed that, I was kind of, part of me was thinking about Tiswas, which was for people that don't remember, was the ITV Saturday morning kids show thing.
It was
with Lenny Henry, let's get it right, and who did the newsreader, and it had the Phantom Flan Flinger.
Was Chris Tarrant on it?
Chris Tarrant was on it as
Chris
well.
Tarrant was on it.
Sally James. I
think so
as well. Yeah, it's all good.
We usually start with music, and this week we've started off with Saturday morning TV from the 80s and 90s.
Yes, absolutely.
Mix it up.
I don't normally push any of my other material, but I will push some of it this morning. I've literally come off of another podcast that we've just recorded, which will be going out next week on the Friday at 8 a.m. with the UK champion of the Rubik's Cube. Fantastic.
Right, okay. As in, I presume that's just purely done on time.
On time, yeah. Brilliant. Honestly,
How quick?
Honestly, he does little bits whilst we're talking, and it's like it's like look at this. It's all muddled up, and it's like look, it's done.
As a kid, when I had one, I could never work out how to do it, so I started to peel the stickers off.
Well, we discuss all of that.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Okay, as you would imagine, because it wasn't my kind of thing. Well, it was my kind of thing. I bought one, and you'll find out all about that if you watch it. Anyway, okay. We have a special guest today. I don't know whether she's ever done a Rubik's Cube or not, but we can ask her now. It's Janine. Welcome to the stage.
Hello.
We've covered all the important things already. Saturday morning TV, Rubik's Cubes.
Yeah. Have you ever done one?
I have. And
you completed it?
Yes, because through the power of YouTube, you can just follow along.
Yeah. Yeah. How long did it take you? I mean,
like half an hour.
Half an hour?
You just follow along. You follow along. It's because my son has one, and his friends come around and muck it up. So then I'm like an umpty putting it back together. It's not really the purpose of it, is it? Really, you're meant to learn how to do it yourself. But
do you know what? It was very insightful listening to this young man this morning. We learned all about algorithms because there's lots of algorithms involved. We learned about sort of patterns. We learned about but also there's some really good business lessons in there as well. I don't want to spoil it for people, but there we go. We're going to learn some business lessons of our own this morning with Janine. So explain to begin with, for anyone that's never met you before on this platform, although I'm sure plenty of people have, what it is that you do.
What I do is I help coaches and consultants earn more without slogging their guts out.
That sounds good, doesn't it? That's good.
It's a bit cryptic.
But, you've got fans. Hello there.
Jolie. Hi, Jolie.
Jolie. Hiya.
It didn't take you long, did it?
No, it didn't. And Marianne's there as well. Yeah, she's talking about the Rubik's Cube there. So, how do you go about doing that then? A very, very simple synopsis of your business.
Okay, in a nutshell, my favourite thing to do is get the offer sorted, which for me, I have a 3 Ps. Marketers like Ps. I've got the promise, the package, and the price. So it's like that's the positioning. What is the positioning of what you're selling? Is it clear? Is it calling to the right people? If you nail that, it can make everything else much easier. I see people struggling with content creation and whatever else. And if you nail the offer, if you're really clear on what you are offering to the world, and you can have more than one offer, it makes everything else much easier. So I do help people with the sales and marketing, but I like making sure the offer is there.
Yeah, I totally understand all of that, and that bit where you said there you can have more than one offer. I think a lot of people get kind of bogged down in that these days, in particular, because they're like, oh yeah, well, you know, it's all about social selling and it's all about this and that, and then but there's only one of me, and yet I've got all of these different facets to what I do, and you know, and then on a platform like LinkedIn, there's only really one space. So what do I do? I put me up there? What do I do on my business page? Some people get so bogged in it that they kind of lose track, don't they?
Yeah, and it gets wrapped up with niching as well. Like, you know, so many people are like, should I niche more? Have I niched? I feel like I've already niched. Why is it not working? And for me, it's like, well, just sort it out on an offer level. Like, who do you like working with? What do they need that will earn you the most money? That's the most expensive thing, you know, problem to solve for them. That's one offer. If you've got others, then that's fine. And then sometimes you can, well, always, you can look at the theme and go, oh, okay, this is the type of person I tend to work with, or this is the type of problem I tend to work with. You don't have to be niche, in my opinion. But then again, I think what I do with people could be construed as niching, but I don't think of it like that. And then I get very pedantic about terminology.
Just a quick, I mean, obviously this whole program is to do with kind of well-being and you know, the way that we work and all of those sort of things. Are you seeing kind of an increased problem area out there within sort of solopreneurs, etc., where they are literally flogging themselves to death in order to try and get this stuff right?
What I'm seeing a lot of is, and I've been through this myself, is I suppose it's the spaghetti on the wall thing, where you're working and working and working, and you're so close to it that you're working harder and harder and harder, and a reducing amount of your time is spent on actually doing the work. And then you're doing all this marketing and you're not actually stopping to look at whether you're getting results or not. And I'm not a huge analytical person either. I'm just talking about take a step back, take a breather, and you know, is it worth you doing, you know, your own podcast, blogging, YouTube channel, being on 5 social media channels, speaking? Like, there's a limit to what one person can do. And we compare ourselves to the bigger companies that have massive, well, not massive teams, but teams, and they have the budget to pay for other people to do these things for them. And then we come up short. Like, you cannot do it all. So do what you like, do what you know. I think wherever you turn up, your ideal clients are there. So just double down on what you know and what you like.
Yeah. Stephen, I mean, you work for a company that's of a reasonable size. It's not, you know, it's not a big company, but it's of a reasonable size. But even then, do you think like there's almost an expectation now to be doing almost too much in each, lots of different areas, and it gets diluted?
I mean, we've got about 38, 40 people. So I think you've got to be very careful as to, I think something it comes down to is understand what you're promising. And it's not over promising, because with a relatively small business, there is only so much you can do. I think it's a case of prioritizing what's going to have the biggest impact for you and your customers. And there are things that in a priority list will move down the bottom that are nice to do's, but we can get to them when we're a little bit quieter. So I think prioritizing and making sure the things at the top of the list are that will have the biggest impact on the business and your customers. But undoubtedly there will be things that just have to just take a back step, go to the bottom of a to-do list, and you will get to them one day because they need done, but they're not maybe priority.
What are the main areas where people prioritize in the wrong place and don't get it right, Janine?
Well, the work I do with people is less about prioritizing. Sometimes it comes up, but often the key is pricing. Because if you're not charging enough, it is really hard to make your business work.
Mm.
And there's all sorts of mindset gremlins that come out when you talk about pricing. But I work generally with people who are working in a very high touch way, either small group programs or one-to-one. And you have to charge a decent amount to make that work. Otherwise, you will be working all the hours, and then you're working even more hours to do the marketing. And you can't earn what you need to make a go of your business if you're not going to charge a decent amount. And that involves targeting people who have money, and especially for coaches, that creates a bit of a conundrum, because it's like, well, I've got all these skills, I want to help people. It shouldn't be exclusive. This help should be able to help everyone. Therefore, I should help everyone, which means that they're sort of, they dilute their message and don't charge enough. Round and round it goes. So that's why I love this conundrum.
Yeah. Marianne said the charging bit is so true. I mean, I've had that conversation with Marianne as well. I mean, I think actually one of the problems is that people, you're right. I think people some people are so strong on the belief about what they do. They don't want to do the wrong thing by people. So they underestimate the worth, or they see other people charging an awful lot of money and feel that maybe they're kind of taking the pee, as it were, for what they're doing. So they want to offer good value, but they think that maybe what they don't do in all of that is they don't necessarily look at what the true cost is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cost to deliver, do you mean, or cost
Yeah.
of?
Well, the A, the cost to deliver, and B, the kind of cost on their life of actually delivering at a set price. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. A classic is, I think, the perception of high ticket consultants who go into blue chip companies. I think the impression is that they're ripping, they can afford to rip people off because the companies are faceless and they're like rolling in it. So it doesn't matter if they're charging $5,000 a day for a day rate. But the truth is, the really big companies, a 1% improvement will produce millions and millions of pounds in results. So why shouldn't they charge $5,000 a day? Like, it's a really good ROI. It's like an amazing ROI. So it is about the value. And
it's relative, as you say, isn't it? If it's relative, £5,000 seems a lot to charge, but if it drives lots and lots of zeros on the end, then as you say, should someone not be? The argument there would be is, should we be paid what we're worth? Because we all talk about it. So therefore they're saying, well, if we're going to drive that, shouldn't we be able to charge that? So it's an interesting one, as you say. You do see a lot of the time. There's something in the news at the moment. I can't remember what it is. It's not post office related, or it's something where they're charging so much per day to go in, and as you say, you look on face value and go, that's a huge amount of money, but actually for what it will deliver, it's a relatively small investment.
Yeah, as long as it delivers.
Yes, absolutely.
As long as it delivers, then that's when it comes up in the papers, isn't it? This project cost $1 billion and they've zero return and delays, and they didn't deliver, and that's when it gets feels bad, disingenuous, and unethical.
Yeah.
Just before we came on, I was just reading an article on the BBC about it was either South Staffs Water or one of the water boards in the Midlands, and the chief executive was justifying her salary, which was something like £3.3 million a year, on the basis that there'd been massive improvements in the service. Now, it just sort of ties into what we've been discussing there, because my initial thought was, that's a huge amount of money as a salary. Her justification was, actually, yes, I've been paid that, but I've delivered this, and this. So whether that's true or not, but it was interesting what we've just said there is something that I've just seen used as an argument as to justify a fee or a salary that someone has been picking up.
I wonder whether, and this could become contentious, but I wonder whether those big salary kind of conversational stories actually are part and parcel of the overall psyche here and the problem as it graduates down, because that person's salary may be justified, but that person didn't deliver that. that person delivered that with a team.
Yeah.
Right. So it was, let's get this right. Nobody is an island, and no chief exec of a company or operations officer of a company or whatever actually delivers what that company delivers. They may be very useful in terms of the overall strategy and the vision and where that went, but it would have been a team that delivered that. And what you have to question is, did that money get disseminated down properly throughout that team who delivered that, etc. And there is an element by which, do you know what, some people do get paid too much. They actually fundamentally do, because actually, is anybody worth that in terms of money when ultimately we've got people on the breadline at the other end? Sorry for getting political, folks, but I think I think that then filters down, because I then think there are a lot of, you know, individuals out there who are genuinely wanting to offer value, offer good service, offer, you know, do the hard work, etc. But they're then like, oh, I don't want to be seen in that light, because, you know, they know that a lot of people will be looking at that going, oh, you know, God, look, it's all right for some, isn't it? You know, but it's more a case of actually relating that back down to where they are. I mean, like Marianne says here, like, you know, people think as a trainer, if Marianne goes and delivers a training course to someone and it's, you know, £500-600 a day, all of the other work that she has to do in order to put that day on, register the people, deliver them books and whatever, then mark the work outside of those training days or whatever, you know, it ends up being like 20 quid an hour. So it's not actually, you know, from front end to back end, it's not actually huge amounts of money.
Yeah, there's a phrase that we're using which I want to pick up on. No one's worth that, or should we be charging our worth? And I think that's a key point, because we shouldn't be charging our worth. We should be charging the value of the transformation, or the value of the solution we're providing. So, you know, I haven't properly thought through the ramifications of a CEO earning 3 million plus per year, and did it get trickled down? But in theory, if they were like an amazing leader and they inspired people and the result brought billions and affected amazing change, the result might have been worth 3 million. I don't think any one is worth 3 million.
But the result, not the individual, potentially, what you're saying.
But you know, just to Graham's point, absolutely, you would expect, therefore, that the teams were remunerated as well, and they wouldn't have been remunerated at 3 million each, would they?
No.
So it's a really interesting one. Do you find in general people are quite scared to actually put themselves out at the right price then?
It's a real sticking point. I do get some clients who don't have an issue with pricing. They are few and far between. Most people are, they get stuck on it and they don't know what to charge. Honestly, it's less about the price. If you really nail the messaging and it's appealing to your ideal clients, and they see you and they're like, oh my God, this person has turned up at exactly the right time, and they've bugged my house because the things they're saying are just like, oh, just talking to my partner about this yesterday, they're more likely to buy no matter what the price is. They will find the money. I'm not saying put it on a credit card. I'm not that kind of person. There's people who say, just put it on a credit card. No, don't do that. But yeah, most people have hang-ups on pricing.
Now, there's a conversation going in the channel, which I just want to bring into this, because I think it's really, really interesting. And I do think this is a matter for this as well, which is that it's about, again, it comes down to equal value. And this is where marketing can be really, really clever out there as well, which is that some people, what they will do is they will use marketing to kind of show people that they are going to deliver the same essentially the same thing, but actually they're not, right? So, and I think that's another issue in here as well, which is that a lot of companies get the wool pulled over their eyes in terms of marketing, because they believe that actually there is a cheaper way of doing it, and that then infiltrates the way that people market themselves at a price. They go, well, yes, but this company over here are doing it for this. We know that it's not the same. We know that they're cutting corners, or they're, you know, it's not a face-to-face, it's a tick box exercise instead, which, I mean, this is very common in the kind of ergonomics world. But ultimately, we're going to be seen as offering the same thing, because there isn't the education there to enable the market to know the difference. Do you see that as well a lot?
Yeah, the most similar thing to that I see is, once in a while I get somebody coming to me, and it's really hard to put a label on them. It's like a new concept, or what they do is new, and people don't know what it is yet. And it's like, it's really hard to cut through and to get visible for what you do, because there's not a nice neat label. Like, I think most people on LinkedIn now would know what a business coach was, and they'd know whether they needed one or not, and they would know whether they're in the market for one or not. But some people, they haven't got that nice neat label, and you end up teaching the marketplace. I'm trying to think of an example more similar to what you're talking about, where you do one thing and people assume it's another thing, and they're like, oh, well, you just do this thing. And it's like, no.
I can give you a really good example, right? In the kind of ergonomics sector, which is, there will be people out there who are highly qualified in terms of their training. They will be pan trained in different areas. They will actually have proper qualifications, maybe in ergonomics. They may have other qualifications as well in mental health training, or specific learning difficulties, or all sorts of different areas which can help in the workplace kind of arena. And they will then go in, they will offer their services to do face-to-face, one-on-one workplace assessment consultations, and they will be faced against a company that says, oh, we can do these for you, and effectively put in a piece of software which is like a tick box exercise. Right? The two things are just fundamentally completely different. But the organization may look at it and go, well, in terms of kind of legality and ticking the box and whatever else, that literally does tick the box, and it's a fraction of the price of that. But, you know, the deliverables on that are a fraction of the price, because there's hardly anything to deliver. And the outcomes will not be as good.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go on, Stephen.
No, go on. I
was going to say, it's reminding me of a book I'm reading at the moment. I don't know why I'm showing it. It's not a friend or anything. Like, it's called Dirty Little Secrets. I'm only not even halfway through. It's quite dense. I don't know whether I'd recommend it yet. I don't know. But
when you say, just by the way, when you say dense, you don't mean thick. You mean it's quite thick.
Yeah, it just, it's a bit, this is going to turn into a book review. It's a little bit, it's a lot repetitive, and like, but you're sort of like, I feel like I'm learning a bit more. So I've got to read every word, but I feel like I'm reading the same thing again and again. But it's the one thing I have got from it so far is really good. I'm going to get to the point in a minute. And that is, when any culture or system or business or person buys something, it is part of their overall system. So like the example they use is buying a new set of chairs, but that person, so for the salesperson, you're like, right, well, you're buying a set of chairs. What kind of chairs? What are they for? Are they dining chairs? What color do you want? They're there. Buy them. Why are you not buying them? But actually, it's like, well, actually, we've just got rid of that dining table, and they do suit the new chairs, but is there really room? And then we're going to move in about a year. So do we really want to invest in new chairs now? Do we want fold-up chairs? Like, there's so many other questions around it. And for a big organization where there's so many moving parts and so many decision makers, saying, do you want a culture change program led by experts, and we will embed it and we will speak to your staff and we'll get them on board. It's like, the risk of that, of like the whole company, like it's almost like the whole company could grind to a halt. Whereas if you just buy an app, it's like much less risky, and it's probably not going to work, but it's less risky and it's not going to disturb the system. She keeps using the word system, and I completely get what she's talking about.
Yeah, no, I get that. That's so pertinent, isn't it, Stephen?
It is. It is. And I was just trying to think, as you were talking for the last few minutes, I was thinking, how can I sort of relate this back to what we do? But I sort of, you started it, Graham, and it got me sort of thinking a little bit further, is the fact that, you know, we're a company that makes a product that you'd say is towards the premium end of the sector, the premium end of what we do. And that conversation around price is something that I and we have on a regular basis. Why should I come and buy that product from you when I can find this product over here that potentially is half the price? And that's one of the big challenges that say I experience and we experience. And I think for me, it's explaining and understanding what else is it going to do. And I picked up on something that Marianne had put in the comments about experience and quality and investing and those sort of things. If you're paying more for something, it's because it's going to give you more. You're going to get something extra from it. It isn't necessarily another organization going, we're going to really profiteer off this. It's because you're getting something more. And I relate it back to what we do as a business. Are we giving a product that's got more adjustability? Is it produced with higher level of quality of material? Does it last longer? Does it give you something more? So I think that price thing is something that I was starting off thinking, how can I sort of think and relate this? But it suddenly became very obvious. It's trying to explain what is an organization or business going to get by investing more in a product. And that maybe would tie back to what you were sort of talking to Janine and some of the comments as well, is actually it's explaining by investing this at this price, you're going to get that. And I think sometimes it's not just throwing a figure out and a number. It's yes, it is that number, but are you going to get A, B, C, D, and E that over there isn't going to give you? And that is why there is a difference in what you're going to pay.
Yeah, and I think there's often a reticence to talk about that. It's like, oh, I better not mention that competitor because it looks cheaper. It's not as good, but it's not actually. It's often better to nip it in the bud and call it out and say that these are all your options. You know, go for your life. You can research them. We cover this, and this. They don't. So if you value this, and this, then you need to go with us. And if you don't, then fill your boots. Go to this thing, and you'll get a quarter of the results or whatever.
To some extent, is this not why anybody that's really trying to position themselves in the right place in the market spends so much time on developing that brand, that personal brand? Because ultimately what you're trying to do, for me, one of the best exponents of this was Apple early on, right? Which was that, and to some extent, I think Dyson was really good at it as well, which is suddenly, you've got a product there where people aren't making the decision based necessarily on the granular. They're making the decision based on they see themselves as aligning to, right? And ultimately, I think for anyone, that would be the pinnacle of where you could get to, which is actually people come to you rather than you have to go to them to some extent, because they see themselves as aligning with what you stand for, and therefore they want to buy in, right? But the buy-in is already there, and that's why, on platforms like LinkedIn and whatever, you'll see, people like Stephen Bartlett spending so long putting all of this stuff out there about thought leadership and trying to show something that you would want to aspire to and align with and whatever, because he's trying to make you think, I want to be like that. I want to be there. So therefore I would buy into that. If I could buy into that, it's aspirational, isn't it, as well as inspirational?
Yeah, and sometimes showing your face and having a personal brand, it allows people to identify with certain elements. So, I aspire to be like Stephen Bartlett, or you, Stephen, obviously, as well.
I mean, that's absolutely fine, but I think Mr. Bartlett would be more of a realistic aim. So,
you aspire to certain characteristics, but like other characteristics, you're like, well, I'm like that. I care like that. I am interested in those things. So yeah, it ticks so many boxes.
Yeah. And so I wonder whether sometimes, in trying to think about, should we do this at this price, and the granulation of it all, people forget to go for that bigger level type of thing, to go, actually, let's go back to, and I don't know whether you find this, let's go back to the purpose. Let's go back to the higher level thing that I can sell to people, and really focus on getting that message out there. So actually, I don't need to talk at that kind of granulated level, but because ultimately the best way to sell something is to not sell it.
In what way?
In that, if somebody buys into the purpose, right, then almost the cost aspect of it goes out the window. It's now something I want, and therefore I can look beyond that. I mean, if you look at the kind of products area that you're in, Stephen, I mean, what people don't see is necessarily, they don't see the R&D. They don't see the fact, like, a little bit like the difference between one of the supermarkets which has staff and the ones that don't have staff. When you're out with your product, right? There are other products on the market which you could buy just out of a catalogue or online, right? But you're not going to get any journey with that. You're not going to get any explanation. You're not going to get any education with that. You're actually there training people. You're actually educating people in how this all works and what the value of what it does and how to use it properly, and but all of that costs. So it's it's a bit like, do you want to go straight through a till at a supermarket, have to do all of it yourself, pack it all of yourself, or whatever? Do you want to go to the supermarket where they put it in the bags for you? I mean, these are choices that the consumer has to make, but ultimately it's about what, where do you want to be as a consumer, as a buyer, whatever, what value do you want? And if a product or service really aligns with that lifestyle or with your aspirations, etc., then you're going to stop looking at the price to some extent.
It's interesting. There's a comment just come in, Graham. I don't know whether you've seen it yet, from Kevin Gallagher, who's just joined, and he's made a really good point, is that actually, from a sales perspective, it's being able to, and this ties into people talking about price and what they charge, and going back to the original subject, is being able and confident to explain why something is at that level. We've talked about price versus cost, haven't we, previously? But try to explain confidently, why are you charging X number of pounds? Well, actually, it's because it's going to do this, and this, not because it compares favorably and it's a little bit under what someone else does, but actually being confident to explain the whole process. You mentioned R&D there, Graham. That's a great point. We as a company make product. You can't just look at what it costs to physically make that product. You've got all those other things, things like R&D, the investment, the research. It has to come from somewhere. So that's when you're talking about a product, and as to how you put it to the marketplace, it's the rounder picture. It's not just it cost X pounds to make, so I'm going to sell it for this. You need to explain the whole process. As to make that product, we had to spend this many hours, and we had to do this, and if you can tell the whole story, and as Kevin says, it allows people to make that informed choice. As a salesperson, I'm looking to help people make an informed choice. It may not be that what we do is the right product for them, and it may be with some of the people you're talking to, Janine, maybe what they're offering isn't the right training course, for that specific business they're talking to. Sometimes you have to help people and let them go somewhere else. And that's a sign of someone who really is trying to make sure that the client or the customer is getting the right thing, is if you can recognize sometimes actually what we're doing isn't the right thing here, and we need to be honest and upfront and lay it all on the table and go, do you know what, maybe we aren't the right partner for you for that specific piece of work.
Yeah. Do love, by the way, seeing people making friendships and whatever in the comment section today. That's marvelous.
Yeah, I'm trying to talk to you guys and like read all the comments as well.
I'm doing the
I
same.
know you shouldn't get distracted by the comments. You know, it's really. I'm doing later on today just a little one as well. I mentioned one that we've just done. I'm actually doing I'm doing a live with someone that's in the top 40 at the moment. And I know whenever I do a live with someone that's in the top 40, the comments are like, you can't keep up with it.
Yeah.
Top 40 what?
The charts.
And it's like a singer.
Yeah, a singer. Yeah. But the thing is, and the comments are never about me, but they're always about, you know, it's like, oh, we love you, and whatever. And again, never about me. But you know, it's so funny just how fast they go, and it's like you just have to completely ignore it.
Well, I was doing the same as Janine. I was sort of talking, and then at the same time, I was looking over here, and then I caught myself and I'm thinking, I'm not looking. It looks like I'm not involved in the conversation, but there's so much going on over here that's really interesting. You slightly get distracted over the other side of the screen.
You kind of learn. You kind of learn to get not too distracted by that kind of thing when you do this stuff on a regular basis. So I find this fascinating, actually, Janine. Who are the main kind of people that you help?
I call them coach-shaped people. So coaches, but also consultants, mentors, anybody who helps other people to do stuff. So not people who do stuff for other people. That's kind of the distinction.
I find one of the things that really helps when I'm talking to coaches, and I don't know about you, is on this whole journey of charging money for things, is to get them to reframe that and start thinking about it being about the client and not being about them. And do you kind of see that as you look across a platform like LinkedIn? So many people's, especially coaches, even their whole setup of their profile, it's like I do this, I do that, I do this, it's like yeah, but it's not about you. It's about
sometimes not always, but yeah, it's funny how the coaches I meet are so empathetic and so there's one client in particular, she's so in tune with her clients and like helps them so massively, but then when she writes her copy, it's really interesting. It's like she becomes another person, and it doesn't sound like her at all. So that's a lot of what we work on. It's just like, you know, you can just write as if you're talking to your favorite client. Like, what would you say to them? You wouldn't say this. Sounds like it's weirdly salesy, some of the stuff she comes out with. It's like, no, that sounds like you would say this, wouldn't you? And it's like almost like I know her tone of voice better than she does.
Yeah. I you know, and I think that's really important. That's the dog, by the way. He's gone completely bonkers because the postman's arrived. He's now going to tear him in two. But I talk a lot to people about the fact that, as I say, on the sales side of things, if you stop selling to people, but you actually talk to them about the journey that you're going on together, and actually where that client needs to be getting to, then that really helps, because suddenly the way I like to look at it is that what you're doing is you're asking for resource along the journey. Yeah. So it's not a case of I need to send you this invoice and you need to pay me, etc. It's more a case of actually what we need to achieve here, or what we're doing together is we're doing this, we're building this, we're getting this to happen, etc., to take you to here, etc., and I just need resourcing, please.
Oh, I love that. I'm sort of imagining going on a camping trip, and they're
exactly
they're bringing the Kendall mint cake.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's. I mean, if you start thinking about it like that, that's it, isn't it? It's like if you were going out for the day together, it would be like, well, okay, Janine, you can bring the sausage rolls and the pork pies. I'm going to be bringing the cake, and Stephen, you can sort the drink out. Yeah, and
can you bring some veg as well? I think we need some veg.
We need a little bit of green in there, I think. Don't we?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying. And the point is, once you start talking about it in that kind of way, and you start saying, well, like that, so what are the different parties bringing to the table, and and then what do we need here to make that happen? It's not a sale in the same way anymore, is it?
Mm.
Yeah. It's kind of like we need to make sure that there's funding in place here to pay for this or that or whatever to get that to happen. Along the way we might have a jazz band and a nice marquee and whatever to stop off, so we've got to pay for that. But there we go.
Yeah, John's flogging his book. Look, John Arden has got a book, and he thinks sales is a dirty word, and building relationships is a better way to put it.
Yeah,
I mean, whatever you have to do to reframe it in your mind. Like I've heard a lot, selling is serving. Like you are helping people. Stephen, you said this. You're helping people make a decision, an informed choice. It's not I think selling, a lot of people think, is pushing something down somebody's throat and persuading them and sort of almost tricking them. Yeah. That is not going to be good for either of you. That's not going to end up in a good result if you forced somebody to buy something they're not really ready for or don't really want.
Or they buy it once and they never come back because the experience they've had wasn't a great experience. And therefore there's no relationship to build on because you've almost cut it off at source.
Yeah. But John says that we can have a free copy.
Oh, hang on. The word freeze there, Graham. Get that up.
Look at that. John, I don't know whether you realise how many free copies you might be agreeing to there.
We have 1 million viewers, John. You might want to.
He may have a digital download, of course, which might make it easier for him. But we'll work something out with you there. Kevin as well says, as a coach, replace the word cost with investment. That's quite nice as well. Cost. I just think nobody likes talking about money, do they? Particularly, I think it's just I think people struggle when it comes to talking pounds, shillings, and pence, unless you're selling orange socks. Is my view on that, which is I think the thing is that there are some businesses out there which I call orange sock businesses, which is where you very clearly have a very obvious product at a very obvious price point, and it's something that a lot of people will want, and it's quite determined by its shape or color or whatever, and either people will want it or not. So if you sell orange socks and you've got I've got these at $1.99, they're kind of my bargain basement kind of thing, but I then got a slightly better quality pair, and these are like $3.99. Or if you're into a bit of luxury, I've got these here, which are pure silk, and these are like, $11.99. And then basically you go, there you go, orange socks, all the sizes you want. Who wants them? And that's fine. Then you can talk about money because it's pretty obvious, really, isn't it?
I thought I was in Walford, like the market store in EastEnders then.
Yeah. I was thinking, is that Mike Reed? Mike Reed? Yeah, was it Mike Reed or Del Boy? I couldn't quite decide. It was a cross between the two, wasn't it? So.
It's a bit Danny.
It's very good.
Yeah.
Marianne said something about Ian Clegg.
Yes.
Clegg. Do you know him?
Yes. So Ian runs something called, is someone I'm working with. He's one of my clients, the Care Connector Network, which is a network designed to help bring the care sector together.
Nice.
And we're working on the sort of messaging and everything for that, because again, when you're putting together something that people think is obviously a good idea, but then they've then got to like put money into it. it's working out the way that relationship feels, so that actually people don't go, oh, I don't want to part with my money, especially in sectors where, because there are sectors who don't want to spend any money. There's always one of those.
And I think there's segments of buyers in practically every sector, isn't there? It's like, you are an idiot if you spend more than X on this thing. I'm not going to be an idiot.
I've just got to pick up on some of Jolie's thing, bog off, which is a bit rude, but we will in a bit, because it's getting near time. But she obviously referring to buy one get one free, free for the price of two. Yeah, but actually, I did mention this on the podcast the other day. Do either of you remember the Only Fools and Horses scene where he's standing there on his market stall and he goes, it's £5 each, or it's 2 for a tenner, and the guy goes, oh, I have two then.
Yeah,
and I love that. See, because part of it coming right back round is you've got to have a little bit of confidence, haven't you? You've actually got to have confidence in how you deliver it, because if you nervously always go, my price on this is I don't really want to talk about it, but or you try and hide your pricing all of the time, that actually puts buyers off. And actually what that sketch shows you is, if you confidently give a price, people go, oh, well, that's good, isn't it? It's like, even if it isn't, but people do buy through confidence. Do you find that people do need to develop that confidence?
Yeah, it's a virtuous or vicious circle, whichever one you're caught up in, because if you go through a phase where you haven't got so many sales, and then you start doubting the amount of sales you get arguably has nothing to do with how good a consultant you are or whatever, but it can affect our confidence, and then we think, oh, maybe I'm not so good, and then that affects your energy when you're putting marketing out there or putting sales efforts out there or whatever. But equally, it can go in a virtuous circle, and the more sales you get, you're like, oh, you're almost blasé. It's like, well, I'm getting full up. I don't really need any more sales. And then the more blasé you are, the more people you attract, because you're confident and relaxed. It's like, people can feel it. I swear people can feel it. Even if you write a LinkedIn post and there's no expression or anything, there's something in it. There's some magic in the pixels where people can sense, they can smell the confidence or not.
I'm gonna stick my neck out here, and I'm gonna say I've seen it a lot over the years in the ergonomics sector, Stephen, which is that that dealers will do this thing where on social media they will sell the virtues of a better solution and doing it the right way, but then I know full well that as soon as somebody goes through the showroom door, they may start by going, oh, okay, so you've got these particular issues, and we're having talked through it, and whatever, I'm going to show you this now. And someone immediately goes, oh, yeah, but how much is that? And they know in their head, like, this is £1,000 chair or whatever. And then they go, this is quite a lot of money. What's your budget? And they immediately try and they start to defensively turn the conversation around, and the person will go, oh, I was thinking, like, I was spending about 150, 200 quid or whatever. And then they will go, right, I'm not going to be able to sell them this anymore. And they stop there without trying to go back to the rationale of, like, okay, nobody expected a chair to be £1,000. Nobody, right? But does that mean to say it's the wrong thing? And does it, just because that person suddenly said, well, I only want to spend 150, that actually they do only want to spend 150? Or is that just their expectation of what it costs? What it costs?
And some of it can be just down to lack of knowledge. If you talk about maybe from on training perspective, if an organisation or a person has never had to go and buy external coaching, that their perception is probably very different. In what they expect to pay is probably very different to what the market rate would be. Like you're saying there, if you've got no experience of buying something, you really don't know where the price point is, what's right and what's wrong. So as you say there, someone the £1,000 and the £150. The reality is, to get a really good chair, you do have to pay £1,000. Just because someone thinks they only want to spend 150 doesn't mean that £1,000 to charge is wrong. It just means that expectation is totally different, and you've then got to bridge the gap and explain and build them up all the way through the process, whether it's a product, whether it's a service, whether it's coaching. Like, almost go back to what we were saying, build up and explain why it's priced at that, what the investment is, and the reasons why it is, and what you're going to get from it. So that's a skill that maybe not everyone's totally confident with, but you've got to be able to explain. Justify is a hard word. I think explain why something is that, and stick to it. And if they don't want that, then absolutely fine. Let them go elsewhere. It's the wrong product or service for that individual. What you're offering doesn't match what they want. Like I said before, sometimes you do have to walk away and go, actually, we don't match up. What you're looking to spend and what we're offering doesn't match up. Thank you very much.
Is that part and parcel, kind of a place to finish on as well, Janine, but is that part and parcel of one of the main things you have to work on with clients is actually some of your clients are wrong?
Yeah, because, as Stephen was talking, I was like, well, I would, if that was a client with the £1,000 chairs, it would be like, get in front of people who want £1,000 chairs, because there are people who want £1,000 chairs. Where are those people? And sometimes it's an awkward conversation because they've got it in their heads. Like, I have heard this a few times. My ideal clients don't have any money. I'm like, that cannot be your ideal client avatar. If they do not have any money, you don't have a business. Like, you've got to charge, you've got to offer your services to people who actually will have the money to pay for you. I know it's hard, but there are other things you can do. You can have pro bono slots, you can have scholarships, you can have freebies, but like, put your oxygen mask on first, get your business profitable first, and then you can do the altruistic stuff. Yeah,
absolutely. I think quite a good example of that, I don't know whether you've come across Rebecca Pay on LinkedIn, who does the CVs, but I mean, she's got a CIC as well as part of her business, and therefore, on a regular basis, there will be some people that will donate money into that to pay for CVs for people that can't afford CVs. Yeah, and that's the thing. If you still want to do the work in that area, what you've got to do is get the business structure in place right in the first place, so you can actually support those people that literally don't have any money, right? But it doesn't mean to say you've got to supply it at no money. It means that you've got to have an infrastructure that enables you to be able to resource. That's why I think resource is a better word. Resource those people however it needs to happen.
Yeah.
What a wonderful conversation. I love your piece of art, by the way, on the wall behind you.
Thank you. My friend painted it.
Yeah. I think it's quite representative of your business in a way, because it's about I think it's about possibility and opportunity.
Oh, that might be a LinkedIn post for me for next week.
There you go.
Scribble
that one down.
Because it's like there's something going to happen there, but it's not fully formed, which is great. So it's kind of like you're kind of being enveloped in. I hope you've enjoyed that. I mean, I can't remember the last time we had quite so many comments in one section, which is always good. If you have enjoyed that, then thank you. Do share it around all over the place, and let's get more eyes onto it. That would be good. Stephen, a quick shout for the 13th of June before we go.
13th of June, all coming along nicely. Graham, you're going to be involved. So we've got an event at the Flock showroom in London. We've got a really interesting panel discussion. And we might always have some nice drinks and nibbles as well. But yes, we're just pulling all that together, and obviously with a nice sort of nod towards Chris Lomas and Hope 4. So we're looking to generate some much needed funds for the work that Chris and his team do out in Moldova and the Ukraine. So they're going to be sort of involved in it as well. So yeah, more information coming out over the next couple of days on that one. So watch this space.
So the lesson is, folks, if you feel yourself drowning over the next week, you're trying to run your business, but you're running yourself into the ground, you know now what to do. You know who to go to as well. And don't just, die trying, because you'll just suck if you do that. Just make sure that you get some help and advice and get yourself going in the right direction. We'll be back same time, same place next week. Until then, take care of yourselves. Bye for now.